Hello and welcome to the shop. I am really excited about the blank I'm going to turn today. This was sent to me by Jon Geisel. Take a look at that. It is a solid color pencil blank. Now you've all seen me take colored pencils and drill holes in wood and glue them in. Around here, the only colored pencils I can get my hands on, unless I go to an art shop and pay a ton of money for the pencils, is round colored pencils. I don't know where Jon was able to get these hexagonal pencils, but they stack really nicely and you can epoxy them together and they make an incredible blank. I'm super excited about turning this blank. I bought a Wall Street kit at Woodcraft specifically for this. And the best part about the Wall Street is when I cut this in half, I got two blanks. So I'm extra excited about that because hopefully there's no issues and we're able to turn the first one nice and clean and I can get two pretty cool pens out of this. The Wall Street pen kit that I'll be using requires a 27/64" bit. I've got that chucked up and I've got my blank ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the camera off and I'm going to work my hardest to get this blank perfectly centered in this chuck so that I can drill straight down through it. I don't want to drill off at an angle because that's going to make turning this pen more difficult. I think I've got the blank relatively square to the vise. It does make me nervous because I don't want to put too much cranking pressure on this because I could actually crush the pencils. So we're just going to take our time. This is going to be an extremely slow drill. I don't know if you could see that or not, but my blank started to slide down in the vise. What I'm going to do is adjust it, make sure I'm recentered, and go again. Okay, we made it through. I didn't hear any funny noises. It didn't feel anything odd, so I think I got a good hole. Well, I started a little off center and I ended a little off center. Let me grab a Wall Street bushing and let's see if there's enough material here to be able to turn this blank. The Wall Street bushings are the same at both ends, so if we slide this on here, you can see that there should be plenty on this end and plenty on this end. So even though I'm a little off center, we're still going to attempt to turn this blank. I'm ready to glue a tube into the blank, and one thing I want to do is look at that. No obstructions, it's going to slide right into the blank. I'm going to use a little medium CA. We're going to put a very liberal amount of CA on the tube. We're going to slide it into the blank, and we're going to swirl it a little bit to mix or move that CA around, make sure it's everywhere. I'm going to tap it just below the surface. See, we've got plenty of extra room on the back side, and we're going to set this blank aside to dry. In an effort to increase my success with this blank, what I'm going to do is go ahead and saturate the blank with a thin CA. Let it soak down into the pencils in hopes that this will make them a little bit more rigid and a little bit easier to turn and less prone to splitting out. Now, I am not going to use any accelerator on this blank. I didn't use any accelerator on the tube. I'm going to let this soak in and dry because I want to make sure it penetrates as deeply as possible. And if I accelerate it, then it's going to seal it on the surface and it's not going to penetrate as deeply into the pencils. So we're going to let this half set for a while. We'll come back, flip it over, and do the other half. Off camera, I went ahead and got the other side of the blank and both ends. Now it's setting on this piece of cardboard and I keep moving it because I know it's going to glue to the cardboard, but I set it on the cardboard with the end that's going to get cut off, so I'm not as concerned about it. I'm just going to let this thing dry naturally and then we'll come back and get it trimmed up and ready for the lathe. The glue has thoroughly dried all the way around my blank. You can see I just let it soak in and I'm really happy with how the blank looks. What I need to do now is, the tube is at the end of the blank on this end, but look how deep it is on that end. See, it's about, oh, not quite a half of an inch, but it's pretty far in there. A little trick I like to use is I'll take another tube, stick it in there, kind of mark it with my finger, and then I can put it on the outside of this blank. I back off just a tiny bit, make myself a mark. Not very visible there, but there we go. And now I'm going to take this to the bandsaw, and I'm just going to cut this unneeded piece of the blank off. You can see I took it right down to the tube. I actually didn't cut any of the tube, but I got super close. I normally don't like to do that, but it couldn't be helped. I'm going to go ahead and take this over to my sanding jig, and we're going to flatten both faces, and we'll be ready to take this to the lathe. Both sides of my blank have been sanded down to the tube. Normally I'd be ready to take this blank to the lathe, but because of the nature of the blank being pencils, and because the wood in pencils is not a super high quality wood, it's a softer wood, I'm going to go ahead and use my belt sander and round these edges over, and then we'll get this on the lathe. Got the blank chucked up, ready to turn. Since I sanded it, I think I took a lot of the thin CA off the blank, so I'm going to go ahead now and just put one more coat on the blank. I'll let it dry, and then we'll begin turning. You can see it really soaks in. We'll give this a few minutes to dry naturally, and then we'll begin turning. The turning is going pretty well. The blank's looking really nice. I'm worried that these little parts where the two pencils meet, I don't know if they'll turn out completely or not, because I was a little bit off to one side on the blank when I drilled it. The other thing that has me a little concerned is I'm missing my lead from two pencils. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and try to glue a couple of leads in here. I think I'm so close to the bushing that I think as I turn this down, you're still going to have a little bit of an indentation there, but you're not going to be able to, there's not going to be any lead in it, and it's not going to be easily fixable. At this point, I can peel a lead back with a razor blade, CA it in there, and I can use some sandpaper to take it down to the level of the blank, and then I can pick up turning. So I think that's the method I'm going to use. When I look at the original blank, you can see the pattern lines up as yellow, brown, white, and there's a blue on either end. So I've grabbed a blue colored pencil from a pack that I had, and I'm going to go ahead and split this with a razor knife, remove a piece of the lead, and get it CA'd into these two slots. I went ahead and used a razor knife and carved back the colored pencil. I've got a nice piece of lead here. I'm just going to go ahead and get it split, and then we'll get it glued up. It's going to use a dab of medium CA. Seat that right in there. Okay. All right. Get my activator. This one seems to be wanting to move a little bit, so we're just going to kind of hold it and pin it. There we go. Now, while we've got the CA out, let's go ahead. Well, actually, what I think I want to do is I'm going to take a razor blade and try to sort of trim the excess off of this, just to sort of round it a little bit. So let me grab a razor blade. I got everything out of the way, and now I'm just going to take this razor blade and shave this pencil down. Trying to get it relatively close to the blank because I don't want to get a catch when I fire it right back up. Oops, hopefully I didn't go too deep there. I don't think I did. I got to take a little more off anyway. But let's just slowly trim this down. There we go. Okay, get the other half here. This is very tedious because I don't want to cut too deep and remove another or make another hole that I have to fill. But we're just going to take our time. There we go. Don't want to get into the blank. All right, that's pretty good. What I want to do now is, I think I'm going to go ahead and put a coat of thin CA over this to hopefully help seal these in. I know I have some blue dust from trimming, but I've got enough to turn off that I think that that's going to disappear. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to back my bushings off and make sure that I didn't glue my blank, there we go, to the bushings whenever I glued these two end pieces in. So let me go ahead and get some CA on there. Okay, now I'm going to move my bushings back out of the way again. Should have left there we go, left that off. And I'm going to use a little activator. All right, make sure my bushings aren't glued to my blank, and they're not. Blank's good and dry. Let me go ahead and get the lathe set back up and we'll continue turning. I've got everything set back up, and one thing I also did is I ran my tool over the grinder and just put a fresh edge on it. And I just want to make sure that I have the sharpest cutting edge possible because we want to cut. We don't want to grab and pull any more lead out of the pencils. I stopped the lathe because I was making my final pass and I saw this fly out right there. I'm pretty good on the bushings. I just need to get this glued in. Before I do, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and, well, shoot. I need to take it down just a little bit in the middle. This is making me really nervous, but I'm going to go ahead and get this glued in. Let's see. Make sure we get it the right direction. It looks like it goes this way. Just a tad bit of glue. Okay, there's that. Okay. Let me hold her down, put a little activator on there. I just need to take a little bit more off the middle. So this is going to be this is going to be a hold your breath kind of a turning here. I feel really good on the bushings. I'm just going to take a little bit off the middle to get rid of this where the pencils come together. Okay, I'm very happy. There's still a little bit of a gap there, but you know what? We've got some sanding to do. That's going to clean up some of that. And I would rather go ahead and take my chances with the sandpaper. Now what we're going to do, let me get this out of the way. We're going to start off by putting a little thin CA glue, one coat of thin CA glue over this blank. And the reason we're going to do that is it'll act like a sanding sealer, and it will keep the lead, the dust from the lead, from staining the wood. I've slowed my lathe down to its slowest possible speed, and I'm just going to apply one coat of thin CA. Let that air dry for a couple of seconds, and then we're ready to start sanding. I love how this blank has turned out. It's just absolutely beautiful. And you'll notice that with the coat of CA on there as a sanding sealer, I'm not seeing any bleeding of the colors into the wood. The only issue that I had is right here, and it's as smooth as a piece of silk, but it's sanded the blue lead almost all the way off. Most likely I will put the clip from the pin there just to kind of hide that, because these will show on either side of the clip, and I think it'll really make it a striking looking blank. Over on the other side where the two pencils met, here, here, and here, you can't feel any, even with my fingernail, I can't feel any indentation whatsoever. They are perfectly smooth and flat, probably due to whatever adhesive was used to hold the pencils together. Very happy with that. I like the way it looks. I'm going to get my non-stick bushings on here. We're going to clean this up with some denatured alcohol and see about getting a couple of coats of CA on it. Cleaned up really nicely. I'm just going to let it spin dry and make sure it's good and dry before applying any of my CA. The CA has dried on my blank, and I'm ready now to micro mesh. Just want to check. There we go, looks good. With the micro mesh pads, after applying a CA finish, I don't use them quite as aggressively as I would on an acrylic style blank, simply because if you do, you're going to take the CA finish right off. All you really want to do is clean up any imperfections in the surface of the blank. Now the last pad you can use a little longer because it's 12,000 grit and you're just using that to kind of buff and shine. Once I run through, I take a look at the blank. It looks really nice. If I see any imperfections or any scratches, then I'll run through the pads one more time. But it feels good at the bushings. It looks good. And I think we're ready to take this to the buffer. I'm really enjoying the finish I've been getting with these buffing wheels. Now, I have only used them on straight acrylic blanks. I haven't used them on a wood blank with a CA finish, so this will be a first. But I just want to see what kind of results I can get. This blank looks amazing, and I think you'll agree that that is a gorgeous finish. Let's get this over to the bench and get it pressed into a kit. I'm ready to assemble my pen. This is a very straightforward pin to assemble. This is the Wall Street 2 grip pin from Woodcraft. You simply slide your spring over top of your refill, place the refill into your nib, thread your transmission. You can see how nice and smooth the action is on this pin. Take our cap clip assembly, and we're going to find the one spot where we sanded away our blue lead. That's going to make for a nice fit there. I like that. Just going to give her a little tap to get her started. I'm going to put a little something in here to protect the back of the pin. Press it the rest of the way together. Got a beautiful fit on the back of that pin. Let's slide the transmission nib assembly in. That is an absolutely beautiful pin. I'd like to thank you for joining me in the shop today for the turning of this colored pencil blank. I am absolutely ecstatic with how it turned out. I've had one of these on my list for a very long time, so John, thank you so much for sending it to me. And now that I've turned one, I've got the itch to build this blank. So my buddy Michael Barr, go Navy Michael, he sent me a link to some hexagonal colored pencils on the internet, and I am going to order the pencils. When they come in, I am going to build one of these blanks. I'll video it for you guys, and we'll probably turn another one of these. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon. Take care, everybody.